Welcome to Rochambeau, the podcast about unique competitions, extraordinary events, and other amazing adventures. I'm Kim.
And I'm Ted. Welcome back, everybody.
We're happy to have you here. Today's episode's a little different, right?
Yeah, we're going to mix it up a little bit. Today, we're going to talk about the Krewe of Optical Delusions.
So the Krewe of Optical Delusions is a parading crew that both you and I are lucky enough to be a part of.
That's right. And you forgot to say an award-winning parading crew.
That is true.
Yes. Yeah, we won the first place in the 2018 Little 5 Points Halloween Parade.
Right.
Which was a lot of fun. And then I guess we got third place in Inman Park Parade.
But no crew would be existing without a leader. And we have with us today one of our best friends and also a New Orleans native and our parade crew leader. Is that what we call you? Do we call you our master? What are you?
Crew chief?
Who are you? This is JP Leonard.
Hi there. I am your crew chief, I guess. That would be the correct term. Yeah.
I love chief. And did Ted get that right with the awards?
We got best in show in the Little 5 Points Halloween Parade 2018, not the actual first place. There were 3 place contenders that were mainly a Little 5 Points businesses. So we are not technically a Little 5 business, but we were offered the best in show, which we'll take, of course.
Absolutely. And Little 5 Points, again, is an area here in Atlanta that focuses on art and community and music. And if you ever come through town, you definitely want to make sure that you get to stop by there. And Ted and I have in the past talked about the amazing Halloween parade that they put on.
Right. One
of the best in the country. So when we say crew, some people might not even know what that means. Some people might not even know how that's spelled.
It's with a K.
That's right. What exactly is a crew? What's the definition of a crew? And is it exclusive to New Orleans history?
Well, I wish I knew the deep-rooted history of it, but the word Krewe is a word that I've known throughout my life as being, if you join a membership that is in the history of Carnival, then you are part of a crew.
I would love for you to take a minute to explain what the theme of the Krewe of Optical Delusions is.
Black and white optical illusions. You just come wearing black and white stripes, checkerboard, polka dot, zebra, whatever you can come up with. Mix the patterns, the more the crazier. My wife, Gina, and I decided for Mardi Gras to dress as optical illusions and to get our bikes involved as well. Previous to that, my wife and her friend had striped their bikes for a bike ride, and this was years before we'd even met.
What a perfect match you guys are.
Right, and I feel like I actually may have thought of this idea before she actually showed me photos of this, but I'm not that clear on it
it's right now. It's one of those group mentality ideas.
It happened, and then when she was like, oh, yeah, we did that, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's do this. And so we did 2 bikes for Mardi Gras 2018, yeah? Yeah, okay, it's 2019 now. Okay, so yeah, I've done it twice for Mardi Gras now. Okay, so last year we started, just the 2 of us. We did our bikes, all black and white stripe. We started with thrift store clothes, essentially, and maybe a couple of items we found at Walmart. It was, probably less than $100 collective outfit that we'd put together. And when we got to Mardi Gras, it blew people's minds. I mean, it honestly did. People were just like, you win Mardi Gras. And we loved it. It was, we were like, this needs to turn into something more.
And for that, you guys were just riding around?
We were just riding around. Yeah. Well, there is a particular parade that we took part in on actual Fat Tuesday, which is Mardi Gras Day. And it's a very organic parade that started, this past year was its 50th year, actually, called the St. Anne Parade. And it's a neighborhood parade that starts in the Bywater of New Orleans, and it runs through the Marigny and then through into the French Quarter. And we got involved in it a few years back, and then when we decided to do this for it, it just kind of took off. Everybody that saw us had something to say about us or the bike. So it felt like a win, and so we were like, let's take it forward.
And so for people who don't know Mardi Gras very well, it's not unusual for any attendee to wear a costume, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not just for people in
required,
parades.
almost, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
Because everyone makes up the spectacle together, and
Sure.
without everyone participating, it's not that. It's not Mardi
And
Gras.
especially on Fat Tuesday itself, the actual Mardi Gras day is when everybody should participate in the costuming, and even regardless if you're on a float or in a parade, that's when everybody dresses their kids up, and it's Halloween on the opposite end of the calendar. So,
Right, right.
Awesome.
What are your memories of some of your first Mardi Gras?
Well, goodness, there are so many, but as a family, we participated in a crew on Mardi Gras Day, and it was with my dad's fire department. He was a volunteer fireman, and some of his siblings, as well as other families, we all participated in a parade that was called Elk's Krewe of Orleans. And what it is all a truck parade. And what that means is every float consists of a semi truck and trailer.
What?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
That's
your duty as a
huge.
crew would be to purchase a semi trailer, cut it down, turn it into your own float. And then luckily, as the fire department, we had a place to store something like that every year
Wow.
that was behind the fire station. And so every year it was, it was a real family event, because what we would do was we would create a theme. We would have a divide of parents for one, and our parents would, as the dads, they were the ones that were involved in building the float. And then the mothers were all the ones that were making the costumes. So as kids, you have the 2.5 to 3 weeks of carnival season before Fat Tuesday. And so what we would do is catch all the throws. And what your throws are is what goes off the float. Beads, trinkets, anything that you could find. And we would find those at other parades. So that's where we would catch all our throws.
You collected throws from other parades to then give out at your
Correct.
parade?
Original
Genius.
recyclers.
I
That's
love
right.
it. I love it. That's killer. And what eclectic throws you must have had then.
Absolutely, and you would have throws from all the parades from the season, and people appreciated it. But we also got a small stipend from our family or parents that you would be able to go to a warehouse or surplus that had all the Mardi Gras things you could ever want. And, maybe I would get a $20 allowance to buy all the Super Balls that I wanted. Because when you're throwing things off a float, that's one of the best things as a kid. Because if you could throw a box of Super Balls, imagine what that does to a crowd. It's
my gosh.
It's the wave of people that would jump up. And then you see some of them catch, and then some of them don't, and they go past it.
That's just fantastic. And I gotta say, I have memories of us in our early 20s playing with Super Balls.
Absolutely.
Like, didn't we go through a phase?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
that someone always had a Super Ball on them?
Well, let's not talk about Ball, the Lazy Susan coffee table game that we created years back. That is another story for your show, actually.
I don't even know about this one.
Yeah, that is a unique competition, actually.
We should do a show sometime on little homemade family games. You and your wife Gina have actually created another game that you play at home that's part win, lose, or draw, and
Part Cards Against Humanity,
it's so cruel.
part Trouble. All together, it is called Win, Lose, or Draw Against the Troubles with Humanity.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. And it's great. You can actually divide between two teams, play like a win, lose, draw style, and then you pick Cards Against Humanity cards. We give you the best of 3 because sometimes, drawing Genghis Khan is really hard or something.
Yeah.
And then once you actually win the guess of the draw, then you pop up the Pop-O-Matic on the trouble board and advance the game.
It might sound complicated, but it's really not.
Yeah.
It's really just, Cards Against Humanity is a harsh game. Some of those cards are just cruel and awful. So watching your friends try to draw them is absolutely wonderful.
Absolutely. All right. So back on Mardi Gras, what we would do for Mardi Gras Day is once we would decide what our theme was and build our float, we would assemble Mardi Gras morning. We would meet at a Popeyes, get your fried chicken, and get on the float. And our particular fire department was on the West Bank in New Orleans, which is across the Greater New Orleans Bridge. Which anybody who's been to New Orleans has seen the giant bridge that crosses the Mississippi there. So we would ride across the river in the back of a semi-trailer that was open. No seatbelts, nothing like that. And
gotta love the 70s.
Yeah, exactly. It was amazing. I mean, it was an open air ride over the Mississippi River.
Wow.
Just an amazing experience. Yeah, so we would get there, crack of dawn. Typically, Krewe of Orleans would be about 127 trucks.
Oh my
wow.
gosh.
Yeah. So it is just back-to-back semi-trailers with, tons of people on floats. And it takes you all day. You start in the Carrollton area of uptown New Orleans and get all the way through into the quarter at Canal Street and then go up Canal Street. And then things usually get scary back in the 70s once you hit Canal Street. I never did know what happened then when I was a kid because I'd always have to sit on the floor of the float.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not supposed to see everything.
Yeah, not supposed to see everything, I guess, when you're younger.
Yeah. There's some stuff at Mardi Gras. Definitely not for children.
Right. When I was in high school, my Uncle Wayne was one of the prop designers for the institution of Blaine Kern Artists Incorporated, which is also known as Mardi Gras World in New Orleans. And Mardi Gras World is responsible for about 90% of all the floats that are built during Mardi Gras season.
Amazing. And when you say responsible, do you mean they build them or supply materials for them?
They build them.
Wow.
They set up the themes. They paint them. I mean, it's an amazing industry to see because now it's moved over to the East Bank and they do tours. My wife and I actually did a tour just not too long ago.
Suggestible for our audience if they ever visit New Orleans? Absolutely. It's an amazing place. You would definitely want to tour it when you come see New Orleans. So when I was in high school, I had the opportunity of apprenticing under my uncle, and I worked the summers of my high school at Blaine Kern Mardi Gras World. And what I was able to do was learn how to cast fiberglass, mold styrofoam, paint large props. One of my favorite jobs there was I was a prop finder because back in the days, they didn't have computer catalog. So they essentially had photo catalog or artist depiction catalog of a lot of things.
You had to dig through those?
Yes. So even an artist depiction would come to us as prop designers, and there would be a depiction of a float, and they would have props that would be on the float. One example I could give you was there was a Betsy Ross that we were going to do as a front, and it was a 25-foot bust of Betsy Ross. So we had to go back in their catalogs and find anything that would represent that size of a woman, and we found a Wonder Woman from the 70s. And it was in this den. What we called a den there was a warehouse that was probably a quarter mile in square footage, and it was like Raiders of the Lost Ark. You would just go in this large warehouse of stacked material and unearth literally a 25-foot bust that you wouldn't have been able to see otherwise. And it took us a day to excavate it and pull it out and then bring it into our shop. And then you would strip it down and slowly carve it back into something else. And we turned it into Betsy Ross.
What a passion project all of this is.
Mm-hmm.
So many hours.
It is. It is a lot of hours. And it is rewarding, especially when I was younger, to see those projects roll down the street in front of thousands of people in all its glory. That was amazing. I actually did a couple of parades with my uncle before he passed away. And got to see some of our work together. So that was amazing.
That's
nice.
wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So since you left New Orleans, how long has it been on your mind to start a parade crew? Was it just that trip to Mardi Gras that you and your wife Gina had that inspired it?
Not exactly. I've had some friends from New Orleans that have been part of a new generation of parade crews because nowadays the dues to get into any parade, to be a crew member, to ride a float, can go into the $5,000 to $10,000.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. And
Oh no!
And now you have to buy your throws, and
That's
they
so
all
exclusive.
so it is a very much exclusive club, and most people are born into it now, or you have the money to do it. So what our generation of people had started, and this started a little before Katrina, but really popped up post-Katrina, is marching clubs. And there is some loophole that they're letting marching crews walk instead of, creating your own float. And a lot of crews have popped up in New Orleans in the last 10 years just because of that. And that really took an influence for me because I do have some friends that are in those marching crews. So seeing them during Mardi Gras was always a fun thing, and thinking we could do something like that in Atlanta just, was kind of a no-brainer. So
that's awesome. So when you guys got back from that Mardi Gras, you guys got your picture in a paper? Is that right?
Not for Mardi Gras, actually. We took it one step further, and we went to Savannah for St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, and brought our costumes and bikes and rode sort of in the parade. We weren't kind of licensed to do so. And we rode around Savannah a lot after that. But from there, we met a photographer that actually worked for a local paper, and his photograph got passed on onto a couple blogs, and we made it into a couple German blogs, actually.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see our photos pop up in places we had no idea. So, but from there, it realized that it was kind of an interesting art piece that we were doing, and so from there, we thought we'd take it one step further and bring it actually into a parade and bring more people into it, and that's where we started preparing for the Little 5 Points Parade.
And how many people did you get in the Little 5 Points Parade?
I think our total number ended up being 33. But we did a couple workshops ahead of time and got some people prepared for what they need for costumes. And we also did workshops on bicycles because I had, made some wheel discs for the bikes that are spirals that really catch the eye in riding, of course, and then striping the bikes as well. And you, of course, Ted, brought your tandem bike over, and we got that sucker done. So that was really cool.
I think it's always been a problem, but it was fun.
Well, yeah, that didn't make it through that parade.
Nah, not so much.
But made it through the last parade. That was fantastic.
Just to the end, and then it died.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
On the bike ride home, the chain locked up, so I had to push it home.
Man, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe how much fun doing a communal event like that is if you haven't had an opportunity to be a part of it.
Right.
It definitely takes on a life of its own. You show up and you meet in an area and you're one person dressed as a big old weirdo in your stripes and polka dots and zebras, all of a sudden joining up with 30 other people dressed the same way, and it is just glorious. The way that people come together and then start moving as one, it makes me emotional. I love parading so much, and I love this crew. I just love it.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
It's just getting bigger. I think we've created an abstract community that we had no idea. I can't believe the people that are joining, because they're not all the people you would think would want to take part in something like this, but, who doesn't love a parade?
That's right.
And being part in the parade, it's so much more fun.
Oh my gosh, so much more fun, especially the Little 5 Points Halloween Parade that I think Ted and I have mentioned has gotten obscenely large, that I really don't know if it's more fun to watch or more fun to be in. I personally would rather be in it at this point in my life. If someone was listening that's in Atlanta, are you open to people reaching out to join the crew?
Absolutely.
How would they find you?
Right now we have a Facebook page, just Krewe of Optical Delusions, and we are our next adventure is East Atlanta Strut.
Awesome.
We're planning on doing
that's September?
Yeah, I think it'll be it's third weekend of September.
Cool.
Usually a really small parade, but as you know, we're all part of this community.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We
also had a business in this community for a while, our frame shop and our antique collectible store, Vintage ATL, plug. So we really want to participate in the Strut this year, and they have a small parade. It's usually just a couple of neighborhood businesses and
it's
some
a funny
other freaks.
Parade.
Yeah,
you almost don't want to call it a parade as much as a strut. It's really just abstract people walking down the street.
Yeah. I don't think you can call anything a parade that's 3 blocks long.
Right.
So.
We might double the
this
size
crew-
of it with a crew.
Well, we need to be 100. That's what we want to do. We want 100 people for the East Atlanta Strut. That's our goal.
That's going to be
Nice.
more than anybody else in the parade. Ted's totally right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the crew was mostly walkers and bikes, and we had a couple strollers,
Yeah.
and we also had a dude on a one wheel.
Right.
So pretty much anything goes in the crew.
Absolutely.
And tell us how the umbrellas got incorporated into it.
Well, that's funny because we didn't even think about umbrellas when we were doing everything, but the day of the Little Five Halloween parade, we had at least a 60 to 70% chance of rain, and it looked like it was going to happen. So we freaked out a little and ran to the Family Dollar up the street, and lo and behold, black and white stripe, black and white checkerboard umbrellas.
That's crazy. Did you have any idea that Family
No.
Dollar? Why did you choose Family Dollar? Who goes to Family Dollar?
It
No
was
offense, Family
not
Dollar.
even a half a mile from our house. It was the closest thing to our house. So
That's crazy.
I know.
They're not one of our sponsors, so that's okay.
Yes.
yes,
No hard feelings.
Please, they have actually some good zebra ones too at Family Dollar now. We may have to participate. What were they? Maybe $3? Oh, they were $3 each. I mean, thank you, Family Dollar.
That was very kismet. That was very kismet. And then I think you guys put the word out
yeah.
that the umbrellas were there, and I went and raided my local Family Dollar.
I mean, it was probably the best thing we could have thought of because going down the street, rain or no rain, I mean, it just have all the umbrellas twirling. It really had a Mardi Gras vibe. Everybody was kind of
Yeah.
second lining, so
Yeah.
that was a good time. And
Yeah.
we're going to continue to use the umbrellas.
That's killer. Yeah, just twirling an umbrella with a pattern like that alone is enough to give you a small seizure. It's
Right.
exactly what we're going for, right?
Yes.
So I had one guy say to me at the parade, he's like, "You look like you just got out of prison." And I said, "No, I just got out of Prism."
Prism. Good one.
Yeah. I think I baffled him, but I thought that was fun.
I'm sure he went home and looked it up.
Right.
Yeah. That was delusional.
Yeah. Thank you, JP, for coming down, crew chief.
My pleasure.
So much fun to have you in this room.
Yeah.
Seriously. We both, okay, so JP was a roommate of Ted's
Yeah.
Yeah.
at one point, and JP and I have been friends since 2021.
1990.
It's not 2021 yet.
No, I mean, I was 2021 because this is my story. So that was
Sure.
a terrible way to express time. No, you're right. We are coming up closer on
26.
26.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been friends
26
26
years.
years.
That's crazy.
Isn't that right?
I hope all you guys out there are lucky enough to have friends that stay in your life that long because this fella is pretty dang special.
Back at you.
He's a special fella. You both are special fellas.
Aw, I'm a special fella too. All right, my friends. So that is parading, and more specifically, the Krewe of Optical Delusions. Ted Ledoux,
Yes, Kim Drobes.
do you want to start the calendar this week?
You said yours is pretty good, but I think mine's pretty good.
Oh my gosh. All right, what do you got?
Okay. What I have is called Dark Mofo.
It's a good name.
Yep. This goes down in Australia, in Berrydale, Tasmania.
Oh, I love Tasmania.
Yeah. June 14th through 23rd. And let me read you a little description here.
Yes,
okay?
please, because the name is not descriptive.
No, it's not.
What you got?
All right. The folk at Mona, which I assume is
Oh my gosh. Can we just pause there for a second?
okay.
Bucket list people, you have got to go to this museum. I mean, I understand Tasmania is far away and it's
Right.
difficult to get to, especially if you live in the States. Not so much if you live in Australia. But it is honestly the most amazing modern art museum that I've ever been to.
Wow.
It was number one on my list before I ever went to Meow Wolf.
Really?
Yeah, and now they're like head to head. But it stands for the Museum of Old and New Art.
Okay.
And you have to take a boat to get there.
Ooh, wow.
And the boat has art all over it. It's just one of the coolest experiences ever. So, what are the people at this museum doing this weekend?
This is their midwinter festival, and it's called Dark Mofo, and they really let their hair down.
I love it.
In 2017, almost 500,000 people descended on the island to see an art performance that involved the carcass of a bull,
Oh my gosh.
500 liters of blood.
Oh my gosh.
Watch performers including Russian punk provocateurs Pussy Riot,
Love them.
Viking black metal band Ulver,
Wow.
and they purged their fears with the burning of an Indonesian Uga Uga monster and joined in a winter solstice nude swim.
That is so cool. That is so cool. These people are amazing.
Yeah, that's Dark Mofo.
Good job, Ted.
Thanks. You going to be able to beat that one?
This is called Game of Shrooms. There's an art magazine. One of my favorite art magazines in the world is called High Fructose.
I know of it, yes.
You know of it, yes. And one of the founders of High Fructose is an artist called Attaboy. And Attaboy is a very creative mind, and he has come up with this idea for this weekend, specifically on June 15th. So basically, he is asking artists around the world to make these beautiful little mushrooms in their style and hide them around their city. Right?
Wow.
And then he's asking everyone to tag them on Instagram as Shroom Drop or hashtag Game of Shrooms. And then you follow the Instagram feed and you can find clues as to where they are in your city. And if you find them, you can have them.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that cool?
That is amazing.
It's really cool and very well coordinated. In the U.S., it's happening in Los Angeles, Boston, New York, Denver, Brooklyn, Austin, Baton Rouge, Dayton, Atlanta, Houston, Nashville, Sacramento, San Diego. I could go on. It's happening in all major cities in the United States. Outside of the U.S., it's happening in Paris, Hong Kong, Berlin, in the U.K., in Amsterdam, in Bangkok, in Australia, Israel, New Zealand, you name it.
Wow.
This is global.
Yeah.
So you can learn more if you follow Attaboy on Instagram. His handle is Attayum Factory, ATTAYUM Factory. And you can learn all about Game of Shrooms. And if you're out and about this Saturday, June 15th, start looking for some shrooms.
That is pretty awesome.
Isn't that
Way
neat?
to go, Attaboy.
Indeed.
That's super cool.
Guys, if you know of anything happening in your city and would like us to talk about it, we want to know about it. So
Yeah, let
do
us
us
know.
a favor. Do your fellow listener a favor. Tell us
Mostly do
about
us
it.
a favor.
Yeah, exactly. So that's about it for this week, right?
Yep. That's
All
it.
right. Thank you, Cadillac Jones, for letting us use your music. As always, we appreciate you.
You're the best. We love you.
All right. Till next time.
Goodbye.
Ooh. Ted just went
They're
off.
back. Ding.